It's 1986 and you're standing in the heart of Miami, a city drowning in cocaine and cash. The air is thick with heat, ambition, and something darker, something that slithers through the cracks of the American dream. Drug lords like Pablo Escobar are raking in millions every week, their empires built on mountains of white powder. But the real secret to their power isn't the drugs, it's the money. Billions of dollars, dirty and untraceable, flowing through a global network so insidious it could topple governments. At the center of it all is a bank called BCCI, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International. A name that sounds legitimate but hides a labyrinth of crime so vast it's almost unthinkable. This is the story of OperationCChase, a 2-year undercover sting that took one man, Robert Mazur, deep into the belly of this beast. He became someone else, someone dangerous, to expose a bank that laundered money for the Medellin cartel, terrorists and dictators. This is a descent into a world where trust is a weapon, and one wrong move could cost you everything. But before we dive in, some of the details in these stories are extremely disturbing and may not be suitable for all audiences, so viewer discretion is strongly advised. As always, remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to stay up to date with the channel. Alright, let's dive into the video. Let's set the stage. It's the mid-1980s, and the United States is in the grip of a drug epidemic unlike anything it's ever seen. The Medellin cartel, led by a man whose name still sends chills down spines, Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria, is flooding the streets with cocaine. 15 tons a day to be exact. That's enough to fill a small warehouse every single day. The cartel's reach is staggering, their profits obscene. We're talking $60 million a week, sometimes more. All in cold, hard cash. Stacks of 20s and 100s, stuffed into duffel bags, hidden in car trunks, even buried in backyards. But there's a problem. All that money is useless if it can't be spent without raising red flags. Enter the world of money laundering. It's the dark art of taking dirty cash, money earned from drugs, extortion, or worse, and making it look clean, legitimate, like it came from a business deal or a stock trade. In the 1980s, this was big business, and no one did it better than the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, or BCCI. Founded in 1972 by a Pakistani financier named Aga Hassan Abedi, BCCI billed itself as a global bank for the developing world. It had branches in over 70 countries, from London to Hong Kong to Tampa, Florida. On paper, it was a success story, the 7th largest privately held bank in the world. But beneath the polished marble counters and tailored suits, BCCI was something else entirely. BCCI was a house of cards built on crime. It laundered money for the Medellin cartel, funneling their drug profits through a maze of offshore accounts. It bankrolled arms deals for rogue regimes, from Saddam Hussein's Iraq to Manuel Noriega's Panama. It even had ties to terrorist groups, moving cash for operations that left blood on the streets. This wasn't just a bank. It was a criminal empire, hiding in plain sight. And by 1986, the U.S. Customs Service had had enough. They needed a way in. They needed someone to go where no one else dared. That someone was Robert Mazur, a special agent with a reputation for thinking like the criminals he chased. Mazur wasn't your typical cop. He was meticulous, calculating, and unafraid to play the long game. In 1986, he proposed a plan so audacious it sounded like something out of a Hollywood script. He called it OperationCChase, named for the currency, the cash, that fueled the cartel's empire. His mission? Become one of them. Infiltrate the Medellin cartel and BCCI, expose their secrets, and bring them down. But to do that, he'd have to become someone else entirely. Robert Mazur didn't just go undercover. He didn't just put on a fake mustache and call it a day. No, he became Bob Musella, a high-rolling, mob-connected businessman with a taste for the finer things. A man who could walk into a room full of drug lords and bankers and make them believe he belonged. To pull this off, Mazur built an identity so airtight it could fool anyone. He set up a network of real businesses, a financial consulting firm, an air charter service, even a chain of jewelry stores with 30 locations across the country. He had a private jet, a Rolls-Royce, and a seat on the New York Stock Exchange. Every detail was perfect, down to the monogrammed cufflinks and the custom-tailored suits. Bob Musella wasn't just a persona. He was a living, breathing lie, one Mazur had to inhabit every second of every day for 2 years. Imagine that. You wake up, and you're not you anymore. You're someone else, someone who shakes hands with killers, who laughs at their jokes, who looks them in the eye and lies without flinching. One slip, one moment of hesitation, and you're dead. Your family's dead. Everything you've worked for is gone. That was the weight Mazur carried every single day. Mazur wasn't alone in this. He had a partner, Amir Abreu, another customs service agent who played the role of Musella's right-hand man. Abreu was the charisma to Mazur's cool calculation, the guy who could charm a roomful of traffickers while Mazur worked the angles. Then there was Kathy Ertz, an agent who posed as Musella's fiancée, Kathleen Erickson. Her role was to humanize Musella, to make him seem like a man with a life, a future, someone the cartel could trust. Together, this trio was about to walk into the lion's den. The plan was simple in theory, but terrifying in practice. Mazur, as Musella, would pose as a money launderer, offering to clean the cartel's cash through his businesses and funnel it into BCCI accounts. To get there, he started small, working with informants who introduced him to low-level cartel operatives. These weren't the Escobars of the world, not yet. They were street-level dealers, middlemen, the kind of people who carried switchblades and trusted no one. Mazur had to earn their trust, one deal at a time, each meeting a step closer to the heart of the cartel. Over months, Mazur climbed the ladder. He met Gonzalo Mora, Pablo Escobar's personal lawyer, a man who knew where every dollar of the cartel's money went. Mora was cautious, paranoid, but Musella's charm and credentials won him over. Then came Roberto Alcaino, a suave, sophisticated trafficker who moved millions for the cartel. Alcaino wasn't just a criminal, he was a businessman, the kind of man who could sip champagne at a gala while planning a cocaine shipment. To him, Musella was a kindred spirit, someone who understood the game. And that's exactly what Mazur wanted him to think. For 2 years, Mazur lived this double life, laundering $34 million in drug money. Every transaction was recorded, every conversation taped. He carried a hidden wire, a tiny device sewn into his clothing, capturing 1,200 recordings of cartel members and BCCI bankers spilling their secrets. The Tampa branch of BCCI was the nerve center, where officers like Amjad Awan and Akbar Bilgrami didn't just turn a blind eye, they actively helped. They offered Mazur offshore accounts in Panama, fake loans to mask the money's origins, and secret transfers to the Cayman Islands. These weren't rogue employees. This was BCCI's business model, laid bare. But every step deeper into this world brought Mazur closer to the edge. He was dining with men who ordered hits over dessert, who thought nothing of torturing a snitch or burying a rival. One wrong word, one suspicious glance, and it was over. Mazur later said he lived in constant fear, not just for himself, but for his family. The cartel didn't play games. If they suspected a rat, they didn't ask questions. They acted. And yet Mazur kept going, driven by a single goal: to bring the whole operation crashing down.
Yeah, I was addicted, but I was addicted to information. My motivation was information became my heroin.
By October 1988, Mazur and his team had enough evidence to bury BCCI and dozens of cartel operatives. They had recordings, documents, witnesses, everything they needed for a historic case. But they wanted more. They wanted to take down as many players as possible in one fell swoop. And to do that, they needed a trap so clever, so audacious, it would catch the cartel off guard. Their plan? A fake wedding. Here's how it went down. Mazur, as Bob Musella, announced he was marrying his fiancée, Kathleen Erickson, played by Kathy Ertz. He invited key figures from the cartel and BCCI to a lavish bachelor party in Tampa, Florida, on October 8, 1988. The guest list was a who's who of the criminal underworld, drug traffickers, money launderers, and BCCI officers who thought they were untouchable. They were promised a night of champagne, cigars, and celebration. What they didn't know was that the party was a lie, a meticulously planned sting designed to end them. The setup was perfect. Mazur's team rented a venue, hired caterers, even brought in a fake wedding planner to sell the story. They sent out invitations, each one a lure to draw their targets in. The cartel members and bankers arrived in limousines dressed to the nines, expecting a night of excess. Instead, they were driven to a trap. As they stepped out of their cars, federal agents swarmed, guns drawn, cuffs ready. In one night, dozens of suspects were arrested, including Fed agents who had spent 2 years building this case. The sting was over and OperationCChase had just made history. The arrests were surgical. 5 BCCI officers, including Amjad Awan, were taken into custody. Cartel operatives like Roberto Alcaino were nabbed, their empires crumbling in an instant. The fake wedding wasn't just a clever ruse. It was a masterstroke, a moment that turned 2 years of lies into a devastating truth. But the story doesn't end there.
Everybody was in disbelief. And the case concluded with the arrest of about 85 individuals.
The arrests on October 8, 1988, were just the beginning. OperationCChase ripped the veil off BCCI, exposing it as a criminal machine. In 1990, BCCI pleaded guilty to money laundering charges and was fined $14 million, the largest penalty ever in a money laundering case at the time. But the real damage came a year later, in July 1991, when regulators in 7 countries raided BCCI's offices. What they found was a nightmare, evidence of fraud, bribery, and money laundering on a scale that staggered the imagination. BCCI wasn't just cleaning drug money. It was a shadow bank, secretly owning First American Bank shares, a major U.S. bank in Washington, D.C. It had ties to the Iran-Contra affair, funneling money for illegal arms deals. It bankrolled dictators like Manuel Noriega, whose own downfall was accelerated by the scandal. The bank's collapse sent shockwaves through the financial world, leaving branches shuttered and billions in assets frozen. Over 85 individuals were indicted, from cartel lieutenants to BCCI's top brass. Some, like Roberto Alcaino, went to prison. Others slipped through the cracks, their wealth and connections shielding them from justice. But here's where it gets darker. Mazur himself later admitted the operation didn't go far enough. Hundreds of leads, names, accounts, connections to global crime networks were never pursued. The Justice Department, he said, focused too narrowly on money laundering, missing the chance to unravel BCCI's deeper ties to intelligence agencies and foreign governments. It's a chilling thought. How much of the truth stayed buried? How many players walked free, their secrets intact? OperationCChase was a victory, but it was also a warning. It showed how deeply crime had infiltrated the global financial system, how banks could be weaponized to hide the profits of evil. And it showed that even a win comes with a cost, a lingering sense that the full story, the whole truth, might never see the light. Robert Mazur walked away from OperationCChase, but the experience never left him. He wrote a book, The Infiltrator, detailing the operation's highs and lows, the fear and the triumphs. In 2016, it became a movie starring Bryan Cranston, a Hollywood version of The Sting that captured the tension but glossed over the teamwork, 250 agents across multiple countries who made it possible. Mazur went on to write another book, The Betrayal, about his later work infiltrating the Cali cartel. Today, he's a global expert on money laundering, testifying in courtrooms and advising governments, still chasing the shadows he first uncovered in the 1980s. But the real legacy of OperationCChase isn't the arrests or the fines. It's the truth it exposed. That money laundering isn't just a crime. It's the fuel for a global machine of corruption. The United Nations estimates that less than 1% of drug money is ever recovered. Banks like HSBC, caught in similar scandals decades later, prove the problem never went away. It's still here, hiding in plain sight, in wire transfers and offshore accounts, in the quiet hum of the financial system. Mazur's work showed us what's possible when one person dares to go all in, but it also left us with a question that lingers like a ghost. How many BCCIs are still out there, operating in the dark, untouched by the light? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, then check out these videos on the screen now. For more on OperationCChase, grab Robert Mazur's book, The Infiltrator, or visit his site at robertmazur.com. If you have a topic suggestion, please send it to the email in the description. And as always, remember to like, comment, share the video, follow all my social media, and subscribe to the channel.